안녕하세요, 여러분. Let me know if you guys can hear me and see the screen. 화면 보여요? 제 말 들려요? 여러분? This is the most nervous time during class, waiting for you guys to tune in. 안녕하세요. 안녕하세요, 여러분. 사바님, 키스님, 셀레나님, 그리고 미우미우님. 미우미우. You actually have a cat. 안녕하세요, 여러분. Thank you so much for joining. 여러분 모두 안녕하세요. Okay, I'll give you guys some time to come in. 네. I started like a minute or two earlier than the usual time, 8 p.m. 트래버님도 안녕하세요. Hello guys. You can find the same worksheet that I'll be using throughout the class in the description box. 네. 그리고 I will give you guys more time to come in. 아직 왜 이렇게 느리지? I feel like there's some delay in the stream. 안녕하세요, 산야나님. 안녕하세요. 안녕하세요. I see a lot of you guys coming in. 키스님 또 안녕하세요. Gilliart님 안녕하세요. 기억 미음 지은님 안녕하세요. 안녕하세요 여러분. 트롭지님, 샤니스님 안녕하세요. 오랜만이네요. 네, everything is good. Thank you. I hope everything is good for you too. 좋습니다. 나탈리아님 안녕하세요. 지수님 안녕하세요. 하쿠님 안녕하세요. I feel like I see I see a lot of familiar usernames, but then again, I also see a lot of, newcomers. So welcome, guys. Welcome to the live class, whether you're a returning viewer or a new viewer. Doesn't matter. Let's have like a fun, useful class together. 타니카님 안녕하세요. 페이트님, 캔디님, 알렉스님, 레다님 모두 안녕하세요. 오케이, 그러면 여러분 잠깐만요. Where was I? Alex님, 레다님, 트롭스님. It's your first time here. It makes me kind of nervous. 좋아요. Thank you for tuning in, by the way. 샤니스님, it's been a while. I'm so excited for this class. 저도 이 수업 너무 기대되네요. 산자나님, I am R for me님, 아날리사님 안녕하세요. 아쿠마님, V님 안녕하세요. 그레이스님 안녕하세요. 라이브 수업에 처음 오시는구나. welcome. 환영합니다. 알렉스님, 아쿠마님도 first time이시구나. 되게 처음 들어오시는 분이 많네요. 그리고 Vibrant님, 하이민님 안녕하세요. Okay, 여러분, 일단은 I'll give you guys some time to go download the worksheet from the website. It's in the description box. And in the meantime, I will start with the introduction. So today's class is tailored to low beginner levels, guys, low beginner learners. At first, I was thinking of including the content for all beginner level learners, including low beginner to high beginner. But then I realized that might be kind of too much to cover, and we wouldn't be able to focus on any one part like properly and more in depth. So I wanted to tell you before we get started that today's class is for low beginners. So if you find it like too easy, or if you already know the material, then you can feel free to join me next time. Or you can also check out some of the playbacks of my past live stream that would suit your level. Okay, 좋아요. 그러면은 이제 시작을 할게요. I feel like enough people have come in. So now let's get started. So today we're going to learn how to conjugate verbs, and hopefully we get to adjectives too in present and past tense. And we'll also try making different sentences with these verbs and hopefully adverbs too. So without further ado, let's get started. So in Korean, every verb has a base form, which is also called a dictionary form. But when you use it in a sentence, you cannot use it in the base form, and it needs to be conjugated, guys. It needs to be conjugated. It cannot be used in its base form. It must be conjugated, or you can also add a specific ending attached to it. but you cannot use the base form itself in a sentence. So let's first learn how to conjugate verbs in present tense. And once you get the hang of the present tense conjugation, the past tense will become super easy because the past tense is always consistent with the present tense form. And you'll learn what I mean soon. All right, so there are two main things, just two main things to remember when it comes to present tense conjugation. So you add either a or a, that's it, to the stem when conjugating a verb. So what I mean by stem, so stem is the part of the verb before ta in the base form. So these are the list of some of the base form of verbs. And as you can see, all of them ends with this ta. And what's before ta, this part, guys, this part is called the stem. So 살다 stem would be 살, this 살, 알다 stem will be 알, 받다 stem will be 받, and so on, right? 놀다, 놀, 뽑다, 뽑, right? This is called the stem. And you just add a or depending on what vowel is in the stem. So if the stem, guys, if a stem ends with the vowel that either a or o vowel, you add a. So when I say ends with a or o, I mean that the last letter of the stem has a or o vowel. The last letter. So if the stem is just one syllable, like many verbs, just one syllable, then that is the last letter of a verb. That is the last letter of the stem. And the verbs in this first group, so this is the first group of verbs that I brought, guys. In the first group, all of them end with either a or o, and also with 받침. So you can see they all end with either a. You can check the common a's there, and also o, right? They end with either a or o with 받침. In these cases, you just add a to the stem. You just add a to the stem. So with this in mind, let's try conjugating, guys. So 살다, it means to live. It's a verb that means to live. So if you want to conjugate it, you can take the stem and then add a, 살아, right? 살아. So if you say 살아요, or if you can also add 요 if you want to make it a 존댓말, the polite speech. But if you say just 살아, it becomes 반말, casual speech. So 살아, regardless, 살아 is itself a present tense conjugation form of 살다. So 살아요, 살아, I live. 그리고 알다는요? 알다 means to know, and its conjugation is 알아, right? 알아. It's pronounced 알아. 그쵸? So 알아요 means I know, right? 알아요. 그리고 how about 바다, guys? 받다. 받다는 받 plus 아, right? 받 plus 아. And it would be pronounced as 바다. 그리고 그렇죠. 맞아요. 받아요. Feel free to write along with me in the comments, guys, in the chat box. 네, with me. 그리고 it could also help you practice typing in Korean, right? And 닫다 becomes 닫아, right? 닫아. This is pronounced 닫아. I'm sure. I'm sure that you guys are well aware of present tense conjugation. The consonant assimilation phenomenon. So I will skip the explanation for conjugate. What am I saying? I keep mixing up conjugation with consonant assimilation. I don't know why. But consonant assimilation is a pronunciation phenomena, right? It's part of the alphabet. So I'll skip that. 그다음에 앉다, 그쵸? 앉아요가 돼요. 앉아. And it would be pronounced 앉아. And the next are the verbs that end with o, right? O vowel. And you also add a after the stem. So 놀다 becomes 놀아. 그리고 놓다 We have a very interesting guest in the chat box. Okay, so I'll bring his comment here. 김정은 씨가 한국어 가르쳐 주셔서 정말 감사합니다. I feel really weird watching this name come up and this person thanking me for teaching Korean. I don't know, it's so funny. But thank you for the good humor. 좋아요. 그다음에 노타는 이제 노아가 되겠죠. 노아. So this one also consonant assimilation rule applies. And 히읗 becomes silent. 히읗 받침 becomes silent, and 노아 is pronounced like 노아. These characters are pronounced 노아, not 노하. There's no 흐 sound, right? Just 노아. 그리고 you can also say noa. So both are fine. Both noa and noa are the correct conjugations of nota. And not all conjugations have a shortened form like this. It's just one of the exceptions. And if a verb does have a shortened form, it's just something that, you can just memorize because there's no particular reason other than pronunciation convenience for native speakers. So you can say either noa or na. Actually, noa is more common. Always, shortened form is always more common. If it does have a shortened form is more common. So noa, noa. 웃기죠, 그쵸? 배꼽 빠지게 웃었어요. 김정은 씨가 오셨어요. 김정은 님이 제 수업에 와주셔가지고 뭐라고 해야 되지? 너무 좀 떨리고 긴장되고 또 웃기기도 하네요. 아무튼 moving on. 뽑다는 이제 it means to pick, like select something, or to pluck out something. So you could also use it when you're plucking your eyebrows out. So you could say something like 눈썹을 뽑다. 눈썹 means like an eyebrow. Eyebrows. So 눈썹을 뽑아요 means I pluck my eyebrows out. 눈썹을 뽑아요. 뽑아 is pronounced like 뽑아. And so that's how you can conjugate these types of verbs. And the next group of verbs, the second group, also ends with a. You can see it ends with a and o. But I've separated these verbs into a separate group because these verbs don't end with a 받침, right? Unlike the first group. All the first group verbs end with 받침, but the second ones do not. And this second group still follows the same rule of adding a. It still follows the same rule of adding a, but there's a small adjustment, like small change, and the change happens in a way that makes sense phonetically. So here's what I mean by that. So let's look at these verbs where it ends with a, the a vowel without 받침. So when you conjugate ka, since it ends with a vowel, you add a, right? Ka-a. The last letter, stem has a vowel, so you add a, right? But as you can see, ka already has the a sound. And so there's no need to add another a sound right after it. Like if you try saying ka-a, it actually sounds like redundant. Like why is there an extra a, So just saying ka makes so much more sense. So that's why we just drop a, the extra a, and just go with ka for conjugation. So the final form of kada's conjugation final form would be just ka, just the stem itself. So for all the verbs that end with a, like this, like these verbs, without a 받침, you can just use the stem when conjugating. Just use the stem. So the rule is to just use the stem, and then there's like phonetic reason behind it. Like I mentioned, it's phonetically redundant to add another a. So you just end it with the stem alone. So I'm sure you can guess what the rest of the verbs are conjugated. So 만나다 would be 만나, right? 만나, or if you want to change it into polite form, it would be 만나요. 그리고 사다 as well. 사요. 그리고 자다 becomes 자 or 자요. 이렇게 됩니다. 그리고 and as for the verbs that end with o without 받침, the rule of adding a still works. It still works, but also for the sake of phonetic convenience, what happens here is when o and a are combined, they shorten to wa vowel. So basically, the rule is that you replace o with wa when conjugating. So for example, 오다, the original rule would be that you add o and then a, right? wa. But we have to shorten it. We shorten it for the sake of phonetic convenience. So instead of saying o, a, the final form would be wa, 와요. 그리고 보다 as well. Instead of saying 보아, we combine it and say 봐. Not 보아, 봐. 봐요. 이렇게 됩니다. So 오 becomes 와, 보 becomes 봐. 이렇게 됩니다. 아셨죠? 좋아요. 그리고 another thing to note, guys, is that earlier we learned that 누아 and noa are interchangeable, right? But in this case, in the case of 오다 and 보다, it's not shortening the verb to wa is a rule. It's not an option. It's a rule. So you cannot say 우와 and 보아 interchangeably. The final form is 와 and 봐입니다. 좋아요. 그 다음에 let's move on to the next group of verbs. So now we're going to talk about verbs that follow the rule of adding right? Do you remember what I said earlier in the beginning, that you can only remember two when conjugating a verb in present tense, which is adding either a or right? So this time we're moving on to the rule, So this rule applies when the last letter of the stem, has a vowel other than a or o. So it doesn't matter what other vowel it is, as long as it is not a or o, then this rule applies. 그래서 first, let's look at the verbs that end with 받침 first, that end with 받침 in a stem. So for this group, without exception, you simply add You simply add to the stem to conjugate the verb. So 먹다 stem, 먹다 means to eat. So 먹다 would be stem plus 먹어요. Right? It would be pronounced 먹어요. 그 다음에 넣다 means to put something inside or insert something. And so it would be this. The conjugation form of it would be this. And how would you pronounce it, guys? How would you pronounce it? Do you remember that noa was pronounced noa? And so the same consonant assimilation rule applies. So 너 is pronounced like no, not 너허, right? When 히읗 is 받침 followed by a vowel sound, then 히읗 doesn't make any sound. So 너, right? 넣어요. 그 다음에 입다, 입어요. Right? 입어. 그리고 읽다, to read, becomes 읽어. It sounds like 읽어. 열다 means to open, and you add to it. So 열어. 그리고 웃다, right? 웃다 means to laugh, or it could also mean to smile. It means both. It has both meanings. So 웃다's conjugation would be 웃어. 그쵸? 그리고 울어. 울다 would become 울어. 그리고 울다 means to cry, and 있다 means to be there or to have. We will cover the meanings of these verbs when we get to sentence making practice. But let's focus on the conjugation rule itself for now. So 있다 becomes 있어. 그리고 없다 becomes 없어. And it's pronounced like 없어. 그쵸? So this part is pretty straightforward. And now let's look at the verbs whose stems end with a vowel only, so without a final consonant. And the stem that ends with we will start with the verbs. We will start with these vowels, e. So and yo, guys, these vowels already have the sound in it, right? Because yo is actually a compound vowel, diphthong, combining e sound, right? E sound with sound, which in final form creates yaw sound, right? So you can say that yaw already has sound in it. So adding extra to a verb that ends with or yaw would be redundant, right? Phonetically. So you can just use the stem itself to conjugate verbs like these. So for example, 서다 means to stand, and 서다 ends with vowel. And if you say 서, likewise, it sounds phonetically redundant, right? We don't see the point of being there. So you just say 서 for a verb that ends with you just put the stem to conjugate. So 서다 becomes 서, and 켜다 means to turn something on, as in like lights or fire. And so this one also, you just use the stem alone. 켜. 그리고 as for a vowel and a vowel as well, you don't have to. So the correct original form would be 보내어, but this is also considered phonetically redundant. So you just can remove it and just use the stem alone. 보내. So 보내다's conjugation form just becomes 보내. 그리고 세다는요, 세다 is an interesting exception. So for 세다, it also has two conjugation forms. You can either say 세어 by leaving there, or you can also remove it. So it's either 세어 or 세. Both are fine. 둘 다 괜찮아요. And 세다 means to count. 그래서 숫자 means number. So if you want to say like I'm counting numbers, you can say 숫자를 세요 or 세어요. Both are fine. 세어요. 이렇게 됩니다. Okay, 그 다음에 now for the verbs ending in 우 as well. I think so. For 우 vowel as well. 우 is not a or o vowel, which means you add right? And here, also for the sake of phonetic convenience, for the conjugation of 우 ending vowels, we shorten it to 워. We change 우 to 워. And by combining 우 and 워. 그래서 배우다는 the original form would be 배우어, but this is phonetically inconvenient. So the final form of conjugation would be 배워. 배워가 됩니다. 그쵸? 배워. And I'm sure you guys can guess how to conjugate 주다 and 치우다. 그쵸? 그렇죠. 줘가 되죠. 줘. You replace 우 with 워. So instead of 주어, you say 줘, right? 줘. So 주어 becomes 줘, right? 주어 becomes 줘. That would be a more appropriate way to explain this. 주어 becomes 줘, and 치우어 becomes 치워. So these three are the final forms. 배워, 줘, 치워. 이렇게 됩니다. And as for E ending vowels, I'm pretty sure you guys can guess. When E is combined with which vowel can you think of? E and sound create what vowel, guys? E and 그렇죠. 여 vowel이 됩니다. 여 vowel이 돼요. 여가 돼요. 여. So you can conjugate E ending verbs by replacing E with 여. 맞아요, 마람님. 여가 맞아요. 여. E plus 여. So 마시다 becomes 마셔. 그렇죠. 마셔. You replace E with 여. 가르치다's conjugation becomes 가르쳐. 가르쳐가 됩니다. 가르쳐. 그리고 the last one in this group is the verb 되다. 되다 means to become. And the same rule applies. You add 어 to the stem, and this is actually the final form of present tense conjugation of 되다. 되다 can be 되어, but it's also interchangeably used with 돼. So basically, when you combine 왜 vowel with 어 vowel, it creates 왜 sound. So you can consider 돼 as the shortened version of 되어, and they're both correct present tense conjugation of 되다. 되다. So both forms are correct, but I would say that 돼 is more commonly used in everyday speech. So when a verb has both like a normal conjugation form and a shortened conjugation form, shortened one is always more common than the original one. So 돼요, both 돼요 and 돼 are fine. 그 다음에 여러분, let's move on to the next group of verbs, which is the easiest, which has the easiest conjugation rule. So it's the verb 하다. 하다. 하다는요. So I'm sure you guys have heard of many verbs that end with 하다. So actually, 하다 itself is a verb with meaning. It means to do. And there are many other vowels. I'm sorry. I keep mixing up vowels and verb. Sorry, guys. Other verbs that end with 하다 include something like 공부하다, 말하다, 전화하다, 일하다, all of which are the combination of a certain noun plus 하다. So they literally means to do this noun, and they become like a fixed noun. They're a fixed verb, a verb on their own, right? 그리고 one thing to note is that 좋아하다, which means to like, is not a combination of noun and 하다. This 좋아 part is not a noun, but even in this case, since it ends with 하다, it still conjugates to 해. All verbs that end with 하다 are conjugated to 해. So 하다, 해, 해요. 그렇죠. 사랑해요. 맞아요. 사랑해요. 사랑해 means I love you, and it comes from the verb being conjugated. 사랑하다 is a verb that means to love. A verb that means to love, and it's conjugated as 사랑해. 사랑해요. So this means I love you. Actually, the subject I and the object you is omitted, but it still makes sense. In Korean, it's common for a subject and an object to be omitted, to be removed if it's obvious by context. So 사랑해요, that's why we just say 사랑해요 for I love you. 아무튼, the next one, the rest of the verbs, you can conjugate following the same rule. 공부하다, 공부해, 말하다, 말해, 그쵸? 전화하다 means to call. 전화해. You just can change 하다 to 해, right? 하다 to 해. 일하다, 일해. 그리고 좋아하다, 좋아해. 이렇게 됩니다. You just change 하다 to 해. 좋아요. So this was the most, easiest rule among the conjugation rules. 그 다음에 let's move on to these two verbs, 이다 and 아니다. So technically, 이다 and 아니다 aren't really verbs. So 이다 is more like, it's more grammatically classified as a particle, but it functions like a verb. So we often refer to it as a verb. And 아니다 is technically an adjective, but since adjectives in Korean are also called descriptive verbs, we can consider it a verb in some sense, but they're not verbs in the broader meaning of the term. But regardless, I will term them as, verb, just for convenience, right? Okay, 그럼 일단은 the most important thing to note about 이다 and 아니다 are their conjugation form, how to conjugate them. So they each have their own conjugation rules. And let's start from 이다. 이다 is used for equations or identifications. So for example, am I spelling it right? Identifications. So for example, in sentences like I am a student, in English sentences, right? Or like she is a mother. In this sentence, basically what they're doing is they're equating I, the subject, with another noun, right? Equating she with a mother, right? Identifying I with another noun, she with another noun. So 이다 can be used in these kinds of sentences where you equate a subject with another noun, another identification, right? Something is, like this is a cat, that is coffee, sort of like that. 그리고 one thing to note is that 이다 can only be used with a noun. Only be used with a noun. It must be followed by a noun. So 이다 is often translated as to be in English, but keep in mind that it's not exactly the same as English to be, because in English, to be can be followed by an adjective, like someone is beautiful, something is soft, right? But this 이다 is not that kind of 이다. This can only be paired with nouns to identify something with something else, right? Or someone with some title or a job or whatever. So that will be the most important point about 이다. So the conjugation of 이다 actually splits into two main forms. We learned that now 이다 is always followed by noun, right? And that if that noun is what 이다 is equating the subject with, right? Identifying the subject with. If that noun ends with a final consonant, then you add it's conjugated as 이에요. So 이에요 would be 존댓말, the polite form, and 이야 would be 반말, the casual form. And if that noun that you're identifying the subject with ends with a vowel, then you add 존댓말. Then you conjugate it as 예요 for 존댓말 and 반말, 야 for 반말. So let's look at the example sentences. It's my book. This is the kind of sentence where you identify something with another noun, right? 그래서 it's my book. My book is that noun. So you can say 책 is. It is. 이에요. 책이에요. Since 책 ends with, 미안해요. It would be 제 책이에요, right? My book. Sorry, I forgot 제. My book. It's my book. 제 책이에요. And since 책 ends with a consonant, you conjugate 이다 to 이에요. 책이에요. 그쵸? In 반말, it would be 내 책이야. 그리고 I'm a woman. 그렇죠. I'm a woman은 저는 여자예요가 돼요. 그렇죠. 저는 would be the subject here. 저는 여자, right? 여자 would be that noun that the subject equals to. So 저는 여자 ends with a vowel. So you conjugate 이다 to 예요. 저는 여자예요. And in 반말, in casual form, you would say 나는 여자야. Right? 나는 여자야. So 이다 has a different, conjugation rule because it's not a proper verb in its full term, right? It's more like a particle and it has its own rules, right? It only makes sense that it has its own rules. So that's how you can conjugate 이다. And as for 아니다. So 아니다 also can only be used with a noun. But unlike 이다, 아니다 doesn't change based on whatever the noun ends with a consonant. Based on whether the noun ends with a consonant or a vowel. So it doesn't change. 아니다 doesn't change whether the noun ends with a consonant or a vowel. You can simply use either 아니에요 for 존댓말 conjugation, polite form, and 아니야 for 반말 conjugation. So for example, it's not my book. 그렇죠. 제 책 아니에요가 됩니다. 제 책, my book, is not. 아니에요. 그리고 I'm not a woman. 저는 let's go with this one. I like this example sentence. 저는 바보가 아니에요. I'm not an idiot. I'm not a fool. I'm not an idiot. You can say 저는 바보. 바보 means fool, idiot. It's not an insult to be per se. It's not an insult per se. It's more of a playful word that you can use with your close friends. But anyways, you can say 저는 바보 아니에요. 저는 바보 아니에요. And actually, guys, the full grammatically correct form of 아니다 would be noun 이가 아니다. Since 아니다 is an adjective, it has to be followed. It can be followed by the subject marking particle. So noun 이가 아니다, and I'm sure you guys know that whether you use 이 or 가 depends on whether the noun ends with a vowel or a consonant, right? So I'll skip that part. So if you want to add the particle 이가 to your sentence, you can say 제 책이 아니에요. But 제 책 아니에요 is also okay. Both are fine. With or without it, it's fine. 그 다음에 저는 바보가 아니에요. Right? 저는 바보가 아니에요. Or 저는 바보 아니에요. Both are fine. 그렇죠. 맞아요. 저는 학생이 아니에요. I'm not a student. 그렇죠. 근데 아니에요가 아니에요예요. 아니에요. It's spelled with 아니에요. 도키어님, it's not 아니예요. This is actually a very common spelling mistake even among native speakers. But 아니다's conjugation is 아니에요, not 아니예요. 아니예요. 아닙니다. 아니에요가 맞습니다. 그 다음에 저는 학생 아니에요. 그렇죠. 그것도 맞아요. 그리고 저는 여자가 아니에요. 그렇죠. 저는 여자가 아니에요 would be a Korean way of saying I'm not a woman. 저는 여자가 or 여자 아니에요. 이렇게 쓸 수 있습니다. So 아니다 is like it goes like that. Oh, I have the air conditioner on, but it's getting so hot. 너무 덥네요. For some reason. 너무 더워요. 아무튼 잠깐 물 좀 마실게요, 여러분. 물 좀. All right. So let's move on to the next part, which is irregular verbs. So irregular verbs are the verbs that don't follow the regular conjugation rules that we've learned so far. So like adding a or 어, right? Or changing 하다 to 해. It doesn't follow those kinds of rules. These rules you can all the rules that we've covered so far, you can consider them regular rules. But irregular rules have their own rules. It's a term that refers to those verbs. But there are so many types of irregular verbs, so I don't think we have enough time to cover them all today. But I do have a video on my channel that goes through irregular verbs in detail. So you can check that out for more practice on irregular verbs. But today, I'll just introduce 3 of the most common irregular verbs now. So it's these 3. 듣다, listen, 쓰다, which means either to write or to use, and 모르다, which means to not know. And you can just remember the final forms. Without thinking about which rule it follows. So 듣다는요, 듣다 is conjugated to 들어. I'm sure you would have heard of this word multiple times. 들어. 좀 들어봐. 음악 들어요. 음악을 들어요. 음악 means music. And if you want to say I'm listening to music, you can say 음악을 들어요. So 듣다 is conjugated to 들어요. You can see that 티귿 in the stem is replaced with 리을, and then you add 어. 그 다음에 쓰다 becomes 써. And 모르다 becomes 몰라요. So 몰라요 means I don't know. 몰라요. And actually, in the case of 쓰다, you could consider it a regular verb because it shortens 쓰어 to 써, right? But not all verbs ending with 으 vowel follow the same rule. So that's why I've categorized it as an irregular. But I guess, it wouldn't be too wrong to consider it part of the regular verb as well. 쓰다 becoming 써. All right. 그 다음에, so that was it. That's all you need to know for now about verb present tense conjugation, and now we're moving on to past tense. And like I said, guys, if you guys have mastered the present tense conjugation, past tense becomes piece of cake. Yes, because it always follows a consistent rule. That consistent rule is adding 쌍시읒 받침 plus 어 to the present tense. So when spoken, this combination is pronounced like saw, right? Saw because of consonant assimilation. The 받침 connects with the following vowel sound. So saw. So basically, you can just add saw to the present tense. 예를 들어서, for example, guys, do you remember how to conjugate 살다? 살다. 맞죠? 살아죠. 그쵸? 살아. And past tense would be 살았어. 살았어가 돼요. 살았어. And when it's spelled, it should be written this way with 쌍시읒 받침, double 시읒 받침 with 어. 살았어. 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 And it would be conjugated to 살았어. Sorry. It would be pronounced as 살았어. I'm getting conjugation and pronunciation mixed up too many times. 아무튼, but I'm sure you know what I'm referring to by context. Moving on. 알다도. 알았어가 돼요. 알았어. 알았어. Same. 다 똑같아요. 그리고 앉아. If you guys have the worksheet with you, I recommend, filling in the table. If you are at a low beginner level and all these things are kind of like new to you, I recommend actually, filling in the blank. 네, but for now, let's cover a few of them. So, 앉다, 앉아죠, 그쵸? 앉아. 이거는 앉았어가 돼요. 앉았어, right? 앉았어. 그리고 moving on to 가. 여러분, 가. What is 가's conjugation in present tense? 가. Just 가, right? Just stem. Because you cannot say 가, it's phonetically redundant. So you can just put the stem, right? 가. And so the past tense would be 갔어. right? 갔어. Went. 갔어. To go도 되고, 가다가요, it means to go, but it's also many times used to mean to leave. Like someone left. Like 그 사람 갔어. That person left already. 그렇게 쓰이고, 그 다음에 만났어, 잤어. 그 다음에 how about 오다, guys? 오다. What is 오다's conjugation in present tense? 와, right? It's 와. And the conjugation in past tense would be 왔어요. 네, 왔어요가 돼요. 왔어요. 그 다음에 또 보다도 봤어요가 되겠죠? 그 다음에 how about 먹다? What is 먹다's conjugation, guys, in present tense? 먹어죠. 먹어. Since it ends with a vowel, now you start adding 그쵸? 먹어. And past tense would be 먹었어. 그쵸? 먹었어. 그리고 how about 넣다는 이것도 넣어가 되죠? 넣어. And past tense would be 넣었어. You just add that saw sound, right? Saw sound. 넣었어. Or if you want to make it into 존댓말, guys, you can add you after the conjugation, right? 그 다음에 moving on to 읽다. How about 읽다, guys? 읽다는 이것도 넣으면 되죠? So 읽어. And past tense 읽었어가 되겠죠? 읽었어. 그리고 또 뭐가 있죠? 서다. What is 서다's conjugation, guys? 서다. 서어. Phonetically redundant, so you just add 서, right? 섰어요. 섰어요. 섰어가 됩니다. 섰어. 그리고 you is optional if you want to make it into the polite speech. So 섰어. 서 and 섰어. 그 다음에 how about 세다가 세다는 어때요? 세다. 새, or 새. We learned that it has two forms, right? 새 or 새. 그래서 you can either say 새었어, or 잠깐만. 둘 다 샜어. 잠깐만요. 샜어. 근데 잠깐만요. Why am I getting confused? 샜어. 샜어도 맞네요. 미안해요. Sorry guys. It's either 새었어 or 샜어. 둘 다 맞아요. 새었어, 샜어. 샜어. 오케이. 그다음에 how about 배우다. 배우다는 어때요? 그렇죠. 배우다는 배워요. 그쵸. 배워요였죠? 우 becomes 워. 우워, right? 배워. And then 배웠어. 그쵸? 그 다음에 how about 마시다 여러분. 마시다's present tense conjugation. 마시어, right? 이어 becomes 여. So 마셔가 되고 그 다음에 in past tense it would be 마셨어. 그쵸? 그 다음에 let's try two more. And then we're going to move on to 이다 and 아니다, which has separate past tense conjugation, as it should be, because they're not proper verbs, right? It only makes sense that they have their own rules. But anyways, how about 되다, guys? 되다's present tense. 되다's present tense는 it has two forms. Do you guys remember? It's either 되어 또는 돼. Both are correct. 되어, 돼. So naturally, it also has two possible conjugation form of past tense, which is 그쵸. 되었어요, 됐어요. 되었어요, 되었어요. 그 다음에 됐어요. 둘 다 맞습니다. 됐어요. 그 다음에 하다 여러분. 하다. What is 하다's present tense conjugation? 하다 always becomes 해, right? All 하다 ending verbs become 해, right? No exception. And so past tense would be 했어가 됩니다. 오케이. 그 다음에 여러분, as for 이다 and 아니다, guys, 이다 and 아니다, let's go over the conjugation rule for present tense for now. 이다 becomes what, guys? 이다 becomes 이에요, right? 이에요 or 이야 in if the noun 그러니까 잠깐만요. 어떻게 하지? So in 존댓말, let's try 존댓말 first. 존댓말. 그쵸? It's either 이에요 if the noun ends with a consonant, and 예요 if the noun ends with a vowel. And in 반말, it's 이야 if the noun ends with a consonant, and 야 if the noun ends with a vowel. And for past tense, guys, past tense는요, you can, if the noun ends with a consonant, 잠깐만요, let me add it here. That ends with a consonant, you can conjugate it to 이었어요. And if it ends with a vowel, it's 였어요. So you can see that this one has no separate form of 존댓말 and 반말. You just add 요 or not, depending on whether you want to make it a 반말 or 존댓말. So 이었어 for 반말, 이었어요 for 존댓말. 였어 for 반말, 였어요 for 존댓말. So 이었어, 였어. 예를 들어서 that was a good movie, let's say. No. What would be a good sentence we can use we can write using 였어요 and 이었어요? Like, it was a fun class. It was a fun class. You can say 재미있는 수업, a fun class. It was 이었어요, right? It was a fun class. 재미있는 수업이었어요. 이렇게 쓸 수 있고요. 그리고 as for 아니다, guys, 아니다. 아니다's conjugation was 아니에요 or 아니야 in 반말. 아니에요 or 아니야. In past tense, you can say 아니었어. 아니었어요. 아니었어 or 아니었어요. So, that person was not Korean. That person was not Korean. 그 사람, that person, 그 사람은 한국인, Korean person, right? That person, Korean person, was not. 한국인 아니었어요. 그 사람은 한국인 아니었어요. 아니었어. 잠깐만요. 아니었어인가 아니었어인가. 잠깐만요, 여러분. Sorry, guys. Let me check the spelling. 아니었어가 아니라 아니었어죠, 그쵸? 아니었어인 것 같은데. 여러분. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Actually, the correct spelling should be 아니었어요. 미안해요. 아니었어요예요. The correct spelling, not with 여. So, 아니었어요가 맞아요. 미안해요. 한국인 아니었어요. Or if you want to add the 이가 particle that follows 아니다, you can say 그 사람은 한국인이 아니었어요. 한국인 ends with consonant, so you add 이. 한국인이 아니었어요. 한국인이 아니었어요. 라고 하면 됩니다. Okay, 여러분. 그러면 that was it for the conjugation rules. And now we're moving on to sentence making. 잠깐만요. As for sentence making, guys, I want to move on to my keyboard, tablet keyboard. Please give me some time. 잠깐만요. 이제 we're moving on to sentence making practice. Ooh. Okay. All right. There you go. 너무 더워요, 여러분. 진짜 더워요. 에어컨 온도를 적당히 맞춘 것 같은데 I feel so hot. 네, 너무 덥습니다. 잠깐만요. Okay, so let's move on to the sentence making practice. Sentence making practice. 아이고, 잠시만요, 여러분. Alright. Clean my desk. Put it aside. Alright. Okay, so let's continue with the sentence making practice. Do you guys have any questions so far about the lesson content? 혹시 질문 없으면, if you guys don't have any question, I'll move right on to sentence making practice. All right, okay, so now 네, sentence making practice 할 건데요. We're going to practice making sentences using the verbs we have learned so far. And since we've covered a lot of vocabularies today, a lot of verbs today, it might be tough to remember all of them. So I've organized everything, actually. 잠깐만요, 여러분. All the verbs that we learned so far. 잠깐만요. Actually, I organized it into a Quizlet set. Let me show it to you guys. Wait. Is it this one? Oh, there you go. 잠깐만요. Invisible. 여기 있다. So I've organized all the words in the quiz set. And I recommend practicing with the flashcard mode or my personal favorite, the learn mode. And it really helps with memory retention. And I'll post a link to this quiz set in the comments after class, so you can check it out then. And it's free, guys. It's free. I see a lot of comments asking if like the quiz set and worksheet are like for free or not. They are all for free. All the YouTube classes, worksheet and flashcards are for free. All right. So that's that. And let's move on. Let's really move on to intransitive verbs. Intransitive verbs. Sentence making practice. And I've divided the verbs into 3 different types. Intransitive verbs, transitive verbs, and was it ditransitive verbs or detransitive verbs? I don't even know how to pronounce it, but we'll get there. But yeah. So let's start with intransitive verbs, making sentences with intransitive verbs. So I've written the definition of an intransitive verb here. So basically, An intransitive verb is a type of verb that doesn't need a direct object to complete its meaning. In other words, the action happens by itself and doesn't act on something else. So for example, in the sentence, the baby cried, the verb cried is an intransitive verb because it just tells us what the baby did without needing to mention anything else, such as like the baby cried something, the baby cried a mouth, the baby cried a face. Like you cannot say this, right? It's just an independent action. So an intransitive verb describes an action that stands alone without affecting anything else directly. 좋아요. 그래서 so we are going to practice making sentences with those kinds of verbs. Let's look at 살다 first. 살다 when it's used as an intransitive verb. 살다. 그리고 actually guys, 살다 means to live, right? And 살다 can sometimes be a transitive verb depending on the context. So for example, if you say 삶을 살다, 삶 is life. So 살다 can take an object in this sentence, right? 삶을 살다. So if used in this context, 살다 is an intransitive verb, but just keep in mind that some transitive verbs can also be transitive depending on how they're used in the context. But anyways, let's look at 살다 when it's transitive verb, intransitive verb. So when you want to say you live somewhere, the particle you should use to mark the place you live is 에. So 어디에 살아요. I live in Korea. 한국에 살아요. 한국에 살아요. 한국 means Korea. If you want to say you live in Seoul, 서울에 살아요. 서울에 살아요. 서울에 살아요. 에 살아요. 그리고 또 뭐 if you want to say you live in, I guess if you live in the United States, you can say 미국에 살아요. England, 영국에 살아요. 뭐 유럽에 살아요. Japan, 일본에 살아요. 뭐 싱가포르에 살아요. So you can basically say 에 살아요 to mention where you live. 에 살아요, right? 에 살아요. 그리고 싱가포르에 살아요. 그리고 KD 탈리안님은 바레인에 사시는구나. 바레인에 살아요. 맞아요. 이렇게 쓸 수 있고요. And actually, guys, 에서 살다 is also fine. 에서 살아요. 한국에서 살아요도 괜찮아요. So 에 and 에서 are interchangeable when it's used with the verb 살다. So 서울에서 살아요. All of them are interchangeable. So 미국에서. And to be honest, understanding the difference between 에 and 에서 require a bit more detailed explanation. So for now, just remember that both 에 살다 and 에서 살다 are okay for living, right? 에서 살아요. 그러면 여러분, let's translate this sentence, guys. Let's practice making this sentence. I lived in Seoul last year. So Seoul is the capital city of Korea. And Daegu is another one of the big cities in Korea. Daegu. So I lived in Seoul last year. You can say 작년에. 작년 means last year, and 에 here is a time marker. So 작년에 I lived in Seoul. How would you say it? So if a sentence contains either time information or place information, it's usually in the order of time and then place and then everything else. Time first and then place. So the bigger unit, almost always in Korean sentences, most of the time, bigger units come first in Korean sentences. Just remember that, guys. Bigger unit comes first. So 작년에, time information first. 작년에 서울에 살았어요. 그쵸? 서울에 살았어요. Let's remove I because it's kind of obvious that you're talking about yourself, right? So 작년에 서울에 살았어요. 지금 대구에 살아요. 그렇죠. 맞아요. 저는 작년에 서울에 살았어요. 지금 대구에 살아요. 그리고 여러분, a more natural way, a way to make the sentence more natural would be to add the sentence, the topic particle 은는, because 은는 also adds the nuance of contrast, contrasting the two. So it's contrasting basically where you lived last year versus now. So this would make the sentence sound more natural. 작년에는 서울에 살았어요. 지금은 대구에 살아요. 이렇게 지금은 대구에 살아요. 이렇게 하는 게 자연스러워요. 그리고 다음에 let's move on to the next one. We learned 앉다, right? 앉다 means to sit. And when you want to say you sit on somewhere, you can add a particle. 앉다. So how would you say I sat on a chair? Conjugated in past tense. I sat on a chair. 레이크님, 작년 is a time noun, so it requires the time marker 에. This is covered more in detail in my video 에 versus 에서. So feel free to check that video out if you like to, learn more about it. But 작년에 서울에 살았고 지금은 대구에 살아요. 이렇게 하면 맞아요. 그렇죠. 의자에 앉았어요. 이게 맞겠죠. I sat on a chair. 의자에 앉았어요. This also goes with a particle, a. 그 다음에 I play with my cat every morning. Actually, every morning is a bit of a advanced, I guess, more upper level particle. So let's change it to in the morning by using a time marker. Particle. So 에 has various usages, like I said. So if you're curious to learn more about it, feel free to check out 에 versus 에서 lesson on my channel. But let's try this one. I play with my cat in the morning. In the morning, time information comes first. 아침 is morning. 아침에 I play with my cat. So 놀다가요, 여러분. 놀다 means to play. But it does not mean to play sports or to play instruments. 아닙니다. This 놀다 means play as in you hang out with friends, not playing like sports, instrument, games. We have separate verbs to express those meanings of playing. But for 놀다, it only means hanging out with friends or your pet. So it goes with 하고, which means with. 하고 is a particle that means with. You can also interchangeably use 하고 with noun 이랑 or noun 와, 과. They all mean with someone. So 아침에 고양이하고 그쵸, 놀아요. 놀다 is conjugated to 놀다 is conjugated to 놀아요. 그리고 아침에 고양이랑 놀아요 is also fine. 아침에 고양이와 놀아요. This sounds slightly more formal because 와, 과 particle sounds slightly more formal compared to these two. Why did I end up here? Anyway, so 아침에 고양이하고 놀아요. 아침에 고양이랑 놀아요. 고양이와 놀아요. 다 괜찮아요. 그 다음에 여러분, let's move on to 있다 and 없다. So these two verbs are antonyms, meaning they have opposite meanings. And 있다 and 없다 are probably some of the most commonly used verbs in Korean, but they're also the verbs where learners often make mistakes with usage. So as I mentioned, 있다 and 없다 are intransitive verbs, so they cannot be used with object markers 을. So it's a common mistake to say something 을 있다, 을 없다. But remember, 있다 and 없다 should never, ever be used with 을. Never. 네. 그리고 있다 and 없다 are typically used with two main particles, which are, the first one is 이가. So when you use 이가 with 없다 or 있다 or 없다, 이가 있다, 이가 없다, it can have two meanings. And the primary meaning is indicating something's existence or presence. So 없다 would naturally mean non-existence or absence. So it's like saying there is that something or someone. There is no something or that someone. 그래서 if you want to say there's a flower, it's indicating the flower's presence, right? The flower's existence. So you can say 꽃. 그렇죠. flower는 꽃이에요. 꽃. flower. 꽃이. 그렇죠. 꽃이 있어요. 꽃이 있어요. 그 다음에 여러분 이건 어때요? There was a cat here yesterday. 일단은 yesterday time information first, right? 어제, 그쵸? 어제. A cat was here. So now you know that you have to conjugate 있다 into past tense. 어제 고양이 is a cat. 고양이가 있었어요. 어제 고양이가 있었어요. Now it's gone. 지금, since it's contrast, we will add 은. 지금은 it's gone, meaning it is not there, right? The cat is not there. So you can use 없다 verb, 없다. 지금은 없어요. 지금은 없어요. 어제 고양이가 있었어요. So by looking at 있었어요, you can infer. You immediately know that it indicates past existence. And 없어요. 지금은 없어요. Now it's non-existent. Now it's absent. 지금은 없어요. 이렇게 쓸 수 있고요. 그리고 철티카님이 Can you say 아침에 고양이로 놀아요? 고양이로 놀아요는 안 돼요. 왜냐하면 when you say 고양이로 놀다, this 로 can only be used to mark. 로 has many usages, right? But one of its usages is to mark. You mark the tool that you do the action with, right? So when you say 고양이로 놀다, it's basically indicating that you are treating 고양이 as a tool. So it actually has a very negative, connotation. So 고양이로 놀아요 is, it's something I've never heard anyone using because it sounds rather cruel, right? 고양이로 있어요. 고양이로 놀아요. You play with a cat by treating it like some tool, right? 그래서 안 되고요. 잠깐만요. Why did I end up here? Anyways, that's it for 이가 있다 when it means absence or not existence. And the next, 잠깐만요. My cat is disturbing me, like below my desk. 효순아, 미안해, 못 놀아줘서. 고양이 얘기하니까 고양이가 나왔네요. 호랑이도 제 말하면 온다. We have a saying, 속담. It's one of the Korean 속담, Korean idioms, Korean proverbs, which means 그 뭐였지 영어로? 호랑이도 제 말하면 온다. 영어로 뭐였지? Something to do with devil. Speak of the devil. Speak of the devil, right? Speak of the devil. So it refers to a situation where you are talking about someone who wasn't present at that moment, but then this person just appears, like just in time, right? So 호랑이도 제 말하면 온다. My 효순이, my cat just did. We were talking about cats. We're making sentences about cats, and then she appeared. So 호랑이도 제 말하면 온다. But anyways, guys, let's move on to the next one. So 이가 있다 can also be used for having, right? Possession and not having. So if you want to say, I have an older sister, so you can use 언니 if you are a female. 언니 is an older sister for female, and 누나 is an older sister for male. So if you want to say, I have an older sister, you can say 언니가 있어요, 누나가 있어요. And I don't, she's making so much noise. 효순아, 좀 나가줄래? 수업해야 되거든. 효순이가 지금 심심해요. 정신없어. Alright, I don't have a younger sibling. And 그렇죠. 동생이 없어요. 그렇죠. 동생 is a younger sibling. So 동생이 없어요. 이가 없어요. 이렇게 할 수 있고요. 그 다음에 너무 더워요. 여러분 저 너무 더워요. 너무 덥지? 왜 이렇게 덥지? 저에게 해결 solution please. I feel so hot, guys. Should I take a break or should I have more water? 모르겠다. 일단 let's keep going. 그리고 있다 can also be used with the particle 에. So 에 has many usages. One of its usages is time marker and another is actually a place marker, but it can only be used when the following verb is something about existence. And 있다 is definitely existence, right? 있다 has something to do with like expressing existence. So it can be followed with 있다 verb. And when you say 에 있다, someone 에 있다, it indicates location, where something or somebody is at, or on, or in. 그래서 if you want to ask, where are you? Where are you? You're basically asking where their location is, right? 그래서 where는 어디거든요. 어디? Where? So you can ask, 어디에 있어요? 어디에 있어요? 어디에 있어요? 그리고 I'm at school. 그렇죠. You can say place에 있어요. place에 있어요. place에 있어요. 학교에 있어요. 학교에 있어요. 이렇게 할 수 있겠습니다. Stay hydrated, miss. 맞아요. Please take a break. Break, we will wait. You can cool off your arms and elbows under the running water. That's a nice idea. 잠깐만요, 여러분. 그러면 이따까지만 할게요. Okay, we're going to take a break after we're done with intransitive verb, and then we're going to move on to transitive verbs, guys, okay? Thank you for suggesting break, guys. 그리고 남동생 7명이 있어요? 진짜요? 와우. 진짜 신기하네요. 그러면 엠버님이 장녀예요? You're the first daughter? Wow, that's like so cool, actually. It would be so cool to have 7 younger brothers. 네. 아무튼 여러분, 어디에 있어요? 학교에 있어요. 그리고 여러분, actually, you can also say 어디에요? For asking location, and 학교에요 for answering, like for providing your own location. And this is only possible. So 에 있어요 and 예요 being replaceable. Replaceable or interchangeable is only possible when you are indicating where someone is currently at. So where I am currently at, or where you are currently at in a question. Other than that, it cannot be interchangeably used. Only when I say, like I'm right here currently, then you can interchangeably use 에 있어요 and 에요. So 학교에요 doesn't mean I'm a school in this context. It means I'm at school. 그리고 어디에요? 이것도 where are you? Not where is it? Where are you? 그리고 그러면 여러분 책상이요. 책상이 desk란 뜻이에요. 그리고 the key는 you can either use key or 열쇠, and car is 차. So using 에 있다, can you try translating both of these sentences? It's on the desk and the key is in the car. 시원한 물을 마시세요. 네, 시원한 물 마셨는데 더 시원한 물을 마시고 싶어요. I need colder water. I need cooler water. So, 일단은 I'm gonna wait till we're done with the intransitive verb part. But 그렇죠. 책상에 있어요. 책상에 있어요. 책상에 있어요. 책상에 있어요. 좋아요. It's on the desk. Location plus 에 있어요. 에 있어요. How about? 그렇죠. 열쇠가 차에 있어요. 열쇠가 차에 있어요. 키는 차에 있어요. 둘 다 맞습니다. 열쇠가 차에 있어요. or 키가 or 키는 차에 있어요. 둘 다 맞고요. 그 다음에 another common usage is place에 something 이가 있다. So both 에 and 이가 are used in the same sentence, used in one sentence. And it's in this case, it's used to indicate the existence of something in a certain place. The presence of something in a certain place. I'll maybe change the wording to presence. So 여러분, 그러면은 how would you say, guys? tree is 나무, park is 공원. How would you say there's a tree in the park? There's a tree in the park. 아이고야. There's a tree in the park. Using this format, this pattern, 뭐뭐에 뭐뭐가 있어요. 뭐뭐에 뭐뭐가 있어요. 어떻게 하면 좋을까요? 그렇죠. 공원에 나무가 있어요. Place에 뭐가 있어요. 공원에 나무가 있어요. 공원에 나무가 있어요. 그렇죠. 그 다음에 animals는 여러분 동물이에요. 동물. animal. 그리고 zoo는 동물원으로 it literally means a place, like an organization for animals. So 동물, animal, zoo, 동물원. How would you say it? There are animals in the zoo. 진짜 덥다. 와, I never knew that talking can create so much heat in your body. 너무 덥네요. 에어컨이 작동을 잘 안 하나? 아무튼 그렇죠. 동물원에 동물이 있어요. 그렇죠. place에 동물이 있어요. 이렇게 쓸 수 있어요. 동물원에 동물이 있어요. 이렇게 쓸 수 있고요. 그리고 여러분, if you want to say, so 있다 indicates presence, right? Presence. And if you want to say there are a lot of that, you can either add this adverb 많이, which means a lot, or you can also you use the adjective 많다, which conjugates to 많아요. It follows the same regular rule. So 많아요, to indicate that there is a lot of something. So for example, if you want to say, if you want to say, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of people in the park. Let's use the same park again. There are a lot of people in the park. 공원에. So 사람 means a person, but here we're using 사람 to mean like in a general sense, right? So you don't have to say 사람들. It's also possible to make it into a plural form and say 사람들, but just using 사람 is okay. In Korean, we're not that strict with plural and singular. You can use singular if you use it to represent like the whole, and not specifically like plural, like more than one thing or one person, 일단 그래서 공원에 사람이 있어요 would mean there is a person or there are people in the park. But if you want to say there are many people, you can either say 많이 있어요. 사람이 많이 있어요. Actually, let's use 들. 들 is a plural particle. 공원에 사람들이 많이 있어요. 공원에 사람들이 많아요. 그렇죠. 둘 다 맞아요. 공원에 사람들이 많아요. 공원에 사람이 많아요. 둘 다 맞습니다. 그래서 사람들, not lives, people, 사람들이 많아요. 여러분 너무 덥네요, 진짜. 여러분 잠깐 미안해요. I can't take it anymore. I need a break. So 잠깐만요. Let me put it up here. 텍스트를 break time. 어디 갔어? Moving to my computer. Okay, so let me write it here. Break time for I think 5 minutes would be enough. 5 minutes. 물 마시고 올게요. Alright, add. Okay, 여러분, let's have a break for 5 minutes. 그쵸? Yeah, it's been one hell of a summer this year. 맞아요. 특히 혹시 한국 사시나요? MLGDX님, do you live in Korea by any chance? Because it's probably the worst summer ever. Like the worst heat ever. Worst humidity as well. 와, 진짜 너무 더워요, 이번 여름. 아무튼 여러분 5분만 쉬고 5분만 쉴게요. 가지 마세요. Don't leave. 가지 마세요. 장난이에요. 곧 돌아올게요. I'll be back, guys. 곧 올게요. How do I... 잠깐만요. Mute. 아이고, 여러분 안녕하세요. I'm back. Can you guys hear me? I feel like we might not be able to make it to the adjective part, but I think we can definitely, I'll try making it all the way to the verb part, like finishing all the verbs part. 근데 아무튼 여러분 너무 더워가지고 진짜 너무 더우면은 I feel like when it's too hot, you kind of lose all the motivation. You know what I mean? 너무 더워요. 아무튼 Oh, it's been awful this year. Your AC broke. Oh my gosh, 진짜요? Amber님, do you live in Korea? 혹시 한국에 살아요? 한국에 사세요? 에어컨 없이 못 살아요. 못 살아. I cannot live without AC in the summer. Oh my gosh. 호주는 이제 막 더워지기 시작하는구나. In Australia, it's starting to get hot now. 발리에 살아요? 발리는 날씨가 어떤지 모르겠네. 좀 덥나요? Is it hot there? Is it hot down there? It gets hotter in my hometown, America. However, the humidity here is absolutely nuts. Amber님, I feel like you live in Korea. 한국에 사시니까 이런 말씀하시는 것 같아요. 맞죠? 오케이. 좋아요. 스리랑카. Nigeria. Nigeria must be hot. So you're used to it. Yeah, I feel like it's good. You know, if you are from a country where it's like always hot and you don't really feel like it's, special, that's good. That's good. 공원에 많은 사람이 있어요. Be okay too. 네, 그것도 맞아요. 공원에 많은 사람이 있어야 되는데, 근데 actually when you're indicating like there's a lot of something, it's much more common to use the adverb 많이, than the modifier for 많은. 파키스탄도 너무 더워요. 그렇죠. 맞아요. ERTR. 그러니까 더운 거를 더운 거로 다스린다. 아니요. 저는 못해요. 근데 I can't drink hot tea in summer. Like if it's tea or coffee being hot, then it's fine. But I cannot. 네, 아무튼 I have to stay cool in summer. 지수는 요거는 나중에 대답해 드릴게요. I'll get back to you on this later because 네, I feel like it'll take more time. Okay, 여러분. Sorry. Thank you for staying here. 네, I told you guys not to go and you kept your promise. 감사합니다. All right, so let's continue, guys. Let's continue. Sorry you're hot. Thanks for your sacrifice. I'm having fun though. 네, I'm having fun. 네, doing classes with you guys. But I appreciate you, appreciating my effort. I heard that in England the rain only gets warmer. Oh. 그래요? Is it that hot? 호주는 아직 더울 때가 아니구나. 그렇군요. I would die in the Middle East. 중동도 진짜 덥구나. 아무튼 여러분, okay. So, let's get back on track and continue with the rest of the sentences. So, for 가다 and 오다, they're also considered intransitive verbs. And you can use it with another 에. So you can see that a lot of intransitive verbs can be used with the particle 에, right? 에 has various usages and it normally goes with existence verb or intransitive verbs. So if you say 에 가다, it means you go to somewhere. You go to that place. And when you say 에 오다, you come to that place. So we learned that 가다 is conjugated to 가 in present tense, 오다 to 와 in present tense. So let's making these sentences in Korean. Let's start making these sentences in Korean. So I went to the airport in the evening. How would you translate in Korean, guys? So time information comes first, right? Evening, 저녁. 저녁. So I went to the airport today. Airport in the evening. So time information comes first. 저녁에 in the evening, I went to the airport. How would you say it? I forgot to tell you guys how to say airport. 공항. 저녁에 in the evening, 저녁에 공항에 갔어요. 그쵸? 공항에 갔어요. 저녁에 공항에 갔어요. 그 다음에 밤에 공항에 갔어요. At night, if you want to say at night, you can say 밤에. 그 다음에 how about mom came to Seoul last month? Mom came to Seoul last month. Last month. you can either say 저번 달 or 지난달. Last month. So, how would you say mom came to Seoul last month? And 저번 달 and 지난달 are nouns, time nouns. So you must use the time marker, to indicate last month. 그렇죠. 지난달에 엄마가 왔어요. 엄마가 어디에 왔어요? Where? Where is missing? 지난달에 or 저번 달에 엄마가 서울에 왔어요. 에 왔어요. Come to that place. 에 왔어요. 그쵸? 에 왔어요. So remember to use 가다 and 오다 with 에. And also, 되다 is another intransitive verb. So it's one of the verbs that can feel counterintuitive to English speakers because in English, when you become something, that something is an object of becoming, right? But in Korean, we don't consider that an object in a sentence. We consider that more of a subject. So when you say to become something in Korean, we say something 이가 되다 and never 을을 되다. 을을 되다 아니고 이가입니다. 그렇기 때문에 last year, I became a mom. Last year, 그렇죠. 작년에 엄마가 됐어요. Mom, something is mom. What I become is something. What I became is 엄마, mother. 엄마가 됐어요. You guys remember how to conjugate 되다 in past tense. 그렇죠. 되다. Alright, now we're done with intransitive verbs and we're moving on to the transitive verbs. So basically, you can think of transitive verbs. The easiest way to take transitive verbs is to think of the verbs that can have objects. So let's read the description I brought together. A transitive verb is a type of verb that needs a direct object to complete its meaning. And this means the action of the verb is done to someone or something. So for example, in the sentence, I read a book, the verb read is transitive because the action of reading is done to the book. The sentence wouldn't make sense without saying what she read, right? Reading needs something you're reading, right? So a transitive verb is a verb that always acts on something else directly. But this is an important point to note. Just because a transitive verb is used in Korean doesn't mean it always has to be followed by an object. So you guys know that when it's clear from the context what the object or subject is, then those object and subject can be omitted, right? So when it's clear from the context what the object is, the object can be left out of the sentence without changing the fact that the verb is still transitive. 그래서, so the rest of the verbs that can have objects are all transitive. 그러면 여러분, with the transitive verbs, let's try making sentences. So I will write the corresponding verb next to each sentence just in case you forgot. I put it on the desk. Put on, 놓다. To put something on somewhere. We're going to come back to it. But, all right. So how would you guys say, I know that woman's name? I know that woman's name. That woman. 그 여자. 그 여자의 이름. That woman. And possessive particle. 이름. 그 여자의 이름을 알아요. 알아요. 그 여자의 이름을 알아요. 알아요 is a transitive verb. And in this sentence, that woman's name is what you know, right? What you know. So that woman's name is what's being known. So this is the object of the verb know. So 여자의 이름을 알아요가 됩니다. 이름을 알아요. 이름을 알아요. 좋아요. 그 다음에 이름이 아니고 이름을이죠. This time we're moving on to transitive verb, guys. Transitive verbs can take an object. So 이 여자의 이름이 알아요 아니에요? 이름을 알아요예요. 그리고 그렇죠. I closed the door. 문을 닫았어요. 닫다, conjugate to 닫아요. And in past tense, 닫았어요. 그쵸? 그 다음에 여러분, I put it on the desk. So I put it on the desk. 놓다 and 놓다. So let me go over quickly the difference between 놓다 and 놓다. 놓다는요, to place, put something on somewhere. It could be on the desk, on the table, like on the surface, right? On the surface. 그리고 넣다는요. 넣다는 to put something inside. It could be inside a bag, inside a box, inside your inside what else? Inside your pocket. 그래서 놓다 and 넣다 differ in that way. So I put it on the desk. It means you put it on the surface, right? On the desk. 그래서 책상에 놓았어요 라고 할 수 있어요. 잠깐만요. Let's make an object more clear. Let's say I put the book on the desk. I put the book on the desk. Now it's clear that the book is the object of what you put on. So you can mark tick with the object marker. 책을 책상에 놓았어요. 책상에 놓았어요. For on somewhere, to put on somewhere, you can use the particle 에 놓다. 책을 책상에 놓았어요. 그쵸? 그 다음에 how about I put it in the bag. Let's try I put it in the bag first. With 에 넣다. I put it in the bag. 가방에 넣었어요. 그쵸? I put it in the bag. And specifically what you put in the bag. Let's try I put the pen in the bag. The pen. 펜이죠, pen. 그래서 you can say 펜을 가방에 넣었어요. 펜을 가방에 넣었어요. 이렇게 할 수 있습니다. 펜을 가방에 넣었어요. So when you put something inside or you place something on somewhere, in both cases, you can use the particle 에 놓다. 좋아요. 그 다음에 let's try this one. If translating the whole sentence feels a bit difficult for you, you can just try conjugating the verbs alone. Alright? 그냥 동사 연습만 해도 괜찮아요. 열다, to open. So I would like you guys to kind of translate these sentences in order in the comment box. I'll wait for you guys' answer. 만나다, to meet. Subway station, 지하철역. Last weekend. 지난 주말 or 저번 주말 is also fine. And you must add it with the time marker A. 다음에 I watched the movie with my friend. Watch. 보다. My friend. 제 친구. I'm sure you guys know this already. Maybe movie is something that you might struggle coming up with. So 영화. 좋아요. 봅시다 어디. Yesterday I wore shorts. Oh, I forgot to add shorts. So shorts are short pants, right? And in Korean, we call shorts as half pants. So 반바지, literally half pants, 반바지. 그리고 yesterday, I'm sure you guys know, 어제. 그리고 the thing about yesterday, guys, is that this is a time adverb, meaning you don't have to add the time marker 에 because adverbs can stand alone, right? Only time nouns, only for time nouns can you add 에 as a time marker. So 어제 doesn't require any time marker. You can just say 어제, not 어제에. But anyways, 그렇죠. 어제 반바지를 입었어요. 좋아요. You conjugated it correctly. 어제 반바지를 입었어요. 그 다음에 그렇죠. 하디님 문을 열었어요. Great conjugation. 문을 열었어요. 그 다음에 I met a friend at a subway station last week. 그렇죠. Perfect. 지난주에 지하철역에서 친구를 만났어요. When both the time information and the place information is provided in a sentence, you can consider it a rule of thumb that time comes first and then place information and the rest. Because in Korean, usually bigger units come first, and time is definitely a bigger unit compared to place, right? Because without time, place cannot exist. So unless you're trying to emphasize a certain element by putting it at the beginning of a sentence, unless it's that, normally time comes first. So 지난 주말에 time. At a subway station, 지하철역에서 is a place marker followed by an action verb. 아무튼, again, guys, if you like to learn more about the difference between 에 and 에서, I have a lesson on my channel, so make sure to check that out. And 친구를 그렇죠. 만났어요. Great conjugation. 그다음에 let's try. I watched a movie with my friend at home yesterday. 어제 집에서 친구랑 영화를 봤어요. Perfect. 네, 맞아요. 어제, yesterday first. 그렇죠. Time information first. Place information next. 그 다음에 with my friend. We learned a particle that corresponds to with someone, right? You can say either 친구랑, 친구하고, or 친구와. 친구와 영화를 보다 is conjugated to 봐 and past tense 봤어요. So 봤어요. 봤어요가 됩니다. Okay, so that's it for the sentences using transitive verbs. And the next verbs are something called ditransitive verbs or ditransitive verbs. The terms aren't that important, to be honest, but these kinds of verbs are the verbs that are used with 에게 and 한테 to mark someone. 잠깐만요. Maybe I have written... 잠깐만요, 여러분. I thought I brought the definition of ditransitive verbs. It's here. 잠깐만요, 여러분. How can I forget to add this? 잠깐만요. Let me copy paste this one. 복사. 잠깐만요. To replace it. 잠깐만요. There you go. Let's use this one. Let's use this one, guys. Ditransitive verbs. There you go. It must be in your worksheet, right? It must be included in your worksheet, I'm sure. So ditransitive verb is a verb that needs two objects to make a complete sentence. So it's an English term, guys. And in English, it usually means you have someone receiving something. So for example, in a sentence, I gave her a gift. Gave is a ditransitive verb because it has two objects. Her, right, the person receiving, and a gift, the thing being given. And in Korean, ditransitive verbs work a bit differently. So Korean usually uses the particle 에게 or 에게, which means to a person, to someone, to show who is receiving. 그리고 을들, an object marker, to what is being given. So in a sentence, I gave her a gift. Both her is not considered an object in Korean sentence, Korean grammar point of view. So we more see it as someone we give it to. So we must say to her. I gave to her a gift. 예를 들어서, for example, in the Korean sentence, 엄마에게 선물을 줬어요. 줬어요 is the ditransitive verb, and 엄마에게 shows who is receiving, and 선물 is what's being given. So always mark the person that's receiving the action with 에게, not 을을. You can just remember that, guys. So the key difference is that in English, the word order is important. 그렇죠? You don't say, I gave a gift her. You must say, I gave her a gift for a sentence to make sense. But in Korean, the word order doesn't really matter. It can be flexible whether 에게 comes first or 을을 comes first, as long as you mark it with the correct noun, right? Who is receiving it or what's being given. 그래서 those kinds of verbs are something like 주다, you give someone. If you give someone, naturally there's a receiver. if you 가르치다 someone, naturally there's a receiver of your service, receiver of your lesson, right? So in this case, you can also use 에게 and 한테 to mark who you're teaching, and 말하다 as well. When you want to say you tell someone, we say tell to someone, because when you talk, tell to someone, and same applies to 전화하다, to call someone, and 보내다 as well, to send someone, as in to send someone a gift, to send someone a letter. 그리고 에게랑 한테는요, it's actually a particle that means to, and it can only be used with a noun that refers to a person. It cannot be used to mean any kind of to, like go to school or go to, like it's not that kind of to. It only means to as in to a person. And 에게 and 한테 mean exactly the same thing and are always interchangeable. The only difference is that 한테 is more commonly used in daily conversations. And here you go. And 여기서 여러분 사실 가르치다. As for 가르치다, guys, this is only limited to 가르치다. As for 가르치다, you can say someone을 늘 가르치다. So you can make the person that you're teaching an object in a sentence. But when both the subject you teach and the person being taught appear together in the sentence, you must use 에게 and 한테 to indicate who you're teaching. So for example, I teach students. So I teach students. In this sentence, there's only the person that's being taught, right? There's no subject being taught in a sentence. In this case, you can say 학생들을 가르쳐요. 학생들을 가르쳐요. 근데 if there are both the person that you're teaching and the subject being taught, such as like English, let's say, then you cannot say 학생들을 영어를 가르쳐요. Only one has to be an object, which is what's being taught. So 학생들 naturally becomes to whom you're teaching. So 학생들에게 or 학생들한테 영어를 가르쳐요 라고 할 수 있습니다. You sound exhausted. Really? Do I sound exhausted? I thought I was doing pretty well. 여러분 저 지친 목소리예요? 지친 목소리예요? 그렇죠, 엠버님. 초등학생들에게 영어를 가르쳐요. I do feel like my voice is becoming a little more weaker, I would say. 네, 근데 I do have some energy left. No worries, guys, no worries. But we definitely cannot make it to the adjective part. We're gonna have to end it at the verb part. 학생들에게 가르쳐라고. 네, 맞아요. 만약에 그냥 I teach students만 있으면, if there's only someone you're teaching, the information about someone you're teaching in a sentence, then using 을 sounds more natural. 네, using 에게 sounds quite awkward. 그래서 in this case, you can use the object marker. But when it appears with the subject that you're teaching as well, then in this case, you can mark whom you're teaching with 에게, 한테. Just speaking so fast. 그래요? I liked your voice. You sound fine to me, but please take care of yourself if you need to. Oh, thank you guys. Thank you guys for looking out for me. Okay, 그러면 여러분, I normally do 2 hours live classes, guys. 네, 그래서 it's not a big deal, guys. No worries, no worries. All right. Okay. So all right. So with that in mind, we're almost there, guys. We're almost there. I think this is the last part, right? Oh, this is the last part, actually. This is actually the old version. So yeah, we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences to translate translate together, and then we're done. We're done. I gave my friend a gift. How would you say this, guys? 여러분 already you guys were already typing. 제 친구한테 선물을 줬어요. 그렇죠. 제 친구에게 선물을 줬어요. It's not 제 친구를 선물을 줬어요. 아니죠, 그쵸? 제 친구한테 선물을 줬어요가 맞습니다. 그 다음에 how about I teach students Korean? 이건 어때요? I teach students Korean. 이건 어때요? Let's see if you guys have already written the answer. 그렇죠. 학생들한테 한국어를 가르쳐요. 맞아요. 학생들한테 한국어를 가르쳐요. 나 학생들을 한국어를 가르쳐요. 그 다음에 엄마한테 말 안 했어요. 그렇죠. I didn't tell mom. I didn't tell mom. 엄마한테 말 안 했어요. 아이고. 사실 안 is a negation, right? Negation adverb. It's used to negate a verb. And 말하다는요, it's a 하다 ending verb. And when you negate 하다 ending verbs, noun plus 하다 ending verbs, then normally you negate it by inserting an in between. So rather than saying 안 말하다, it's more natural to say 말 안 하다. So 엄마한테 말 안 했어요. Sounds very natural. 말 안 했어요. 안 말하다는 조금 어색해요. Awkward. 말 안 하다. 이게 natural합니다. 그 다음에 how about did you call your family last night? So call as in making phone call. Did you call your family last night? 요건 어때요? 그렇죠. 어젯밤에 가족에게 전화했나요? 그렇죠. 어젯밤 굉장히 잘 쓰셨네요. 이게 so 어젯밤 is the combination of 어제 yesterday plus 밤 which means night. 그리고 when two pure Korean words, when two native Korean words are combined, and the first word ends with vowel, usually there's the extra 시읒 edit in between. 어젯밤. So 어젯밤에 그렇죠. 가족에게 전화했어요. 가족에게 전화했어요. 그렇죠. 그리고 디안님이 I feel like 디안님 is, kind of behind the live, like the timeline. 그쵸? She's not on the the most recent live stream part. That's okay. She'll catch up. 그 다음에 shout out from Philippines. Thank you so much, Raymond님. Thank you so much. 그 다음에 the last one, guys. Last one. I sent the teacher an email. So send is 보내다, right? 그리고 이메일은 you can either say 이메일 or 메일. 둘 다 괜찮아요. Note that mail is spelled with this A when it means mail. 그리고 매일 when it means every day is spelled with this A, right? 그쵸. 선생님에게 이메일을 보냈어요. 맞아요. 그리고 그쵸. You can also change 에게인 한테 into its honorific form 게. And 제가 선생님께 이메일을 보냈어요도 괜찮아요. 선생님께 이메일을 보냈어요. 좋아요, 여러분. 잘했어요. 그러면은 여러분, I also brought the parts for adjectives, but I feel like we won't be able to make it today because I'm slightly exhausted right now. So 이거는 어떻게 할까요? 이거는 근데 I actually have a video on adjectives specifically, so it would actually be more helpful to study with that video. And for this one, for this worksheet, I will have it up on my website with the answers, with the conjugations and the translation for each sentence added in the file so that you guys can, check it you guys can use it as an answer sheet. All right. So I'll do that. And like I mentioned in the middle of the class, guys, I also have the, 잠깐만요. Where is it? The quiz set. quiz set도 있으니까 I will have the link up. 잠깐만요, 여러분. 여기 있다. The quiz set that involves all the verbs that we learned. And it also has the conjugation form and the in the parenthesis and also the meaning. 그리고 I also included the adjectives because I thought we would be able to make it till there, but we didn't. But still, you can still practice. You can still study with this set. I will have it in the comments. 코멘트에 놔드릴게요. Okay. That's it for today, guys. That's it for today. 여러분 수고 많았어요. 일단은 여기까지 하고 Thank you so much for joining the class. 뭐야? Thank you so much for joining the class, guys. 선생님이랑 한국어 문장을 만들면서 즐거운 시간을 보냈어요. 고생 많으셨습니다, 선생님. 여러분도 잘하셨어요. 정말 자랑스러워요. Oh, thank you so much for the sweet words, 타타요님. 탈리아님. Thank you. I know all the answers, but don't know why I'm not able to type fast. It takes time, of course. Get some rest. Will do. I definitely do need some rest. 맞아요. 이 heat 너무 더워가지고 진짜 더울 때 사람은 좀 쉬어야 돼요. 그쵸? You work so hard. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It's okay, Miss Vicky. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Thank you. Thank you. 멜연이님, 제 질문? So if it's a question that's not related to the class, maybe we could put it off, to another chat Q&A session. All right, 멜리아나님. 다음에 감사합니다. Grace님, thank you so much. 대치님, you joined. You were here. I didn't know you were here. 레라님, thank you so much. Learned a lot today. Take care of yourself. Hugs. Thank you. 여러분, thank you so much for all the supportive messages. Thank you. 감사합니다, 여러분. Wow, so many thoughtful messages. I'm reading it all. I'm checking it all, guys. 왜 이렇게 여러분 오늘 왜 이렇게 kind? Why are you guys being so kind? I feel like more than usual, which I really, really appreciate, by the way. I'm not saying I don't like it. I absolutely love it. Thank you guys. Wow. I'm almost overwhelmed with so much love. Hi from Italy. 화이팅 여러분. Thank you for today. 괜찮아요. 멜리언니님 sorry. 다음에 다음 Q&A 때 꼭 해드릴게요. 네, 밤이에요. It's nighttime here. 네, it's nighttime입니다. Thank you so much. Okay, I think I checked all the chats, all the supportive chats in the chat box. 다음에 you're starting to relearning it. Oh, wow. Thanks so much for all your content. It's really helpful. Thank you so much, Eric님. Wow, I wish you good luck. Nothing but the best on your learning journey, learning process. 오케이. 여러분, 모두 감사합니다. 왜냐하면 우리가 모두 선생님을 사랑하기 때문입니다. 감사합니다. I'm actually making a hand heart. 손 하트 하고 있어요, 지금. 너무너무 감사합니다. 오케이. 여러분, 그러면 I will end it here. 네, 그리고 I will see you guys in the next video and also in the next live session. 다음에 또 봐요, 여러분. 안녕. Make sure you check out the quiz set. That'll be in the comments. Bye bye.